Okay, so if you've sat through any of these panels before, you've probably heard the spiel, and if not, I'll give you a little bit. The whole con is really kid-focused. 11 and under are free. We have the kids' corral up there as the very first thing you get into. And it's kind of, we were chatting a little bit while we were just sitting here waiting for the thing to start. How there's different cons that have different feels to it. And Denver Comic Con, the comic book classroom, that's Denver's thing, is to raise money for children's literacy. So let me read this to you real quick. When Denver Comic Con was first dreamed up, the founders wanted to ensure that today's kids get to experience the same joy the comic books brought to us growing up. That dream is being accomplished through the funding of your ticket purchase to Denver Comic Con. Your ticket purchase funds our nonprofit educational program, Comic Book Classroom. Like our corral that you see up front when you go upstairs, Comic Book Classroom teaches kids about reading, visual storytelling, dialogue, conflict resolution, and basic drawing. It brings in professional creators to show kids that making comics can be a real job someday. And the coolest of all is that kids create their own comic books in the end. So it's really important to the people who are volunteering their time, to those who are coming and are working at the con in the children's literacy. And that'll segue really great into, this is Dan Perrin, who is making Archie. And a long, wonderful line of Archie comics, still alive and well today, and booming today, which is really kind of cool when you see something that has the legacy that the character has. And so there's a reason that Archie's been around for as long as it has been, because it's a good story. You know, it's good characters, and it's also relatable characters to young children as well as adults. So it kind of segues really cool into how the whole Denver Comic Con is run and what it's about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dan Perrin. Dan?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, it's been a great show so far, and I've been with Archie for 26 years now, and Archie now is really, in my 26 years, I think I feel like we're really at a peak now. I feel like my career is sort of just starting. It's been really exciting the last few years. The new projects we've been working on, the new blood in the company with ownership. Archie's branched out digitally in a big way. We're very, very successful there. And our worldwide audience has gotten bigger. And also, our newsstand sales have actually gone up in the last year, which, if you know the way the marketplace is, book sales aren't going up at all. So we're doing well, and it's just because of the characters. The characters are true, tested characters that have been around for decades, and that's the real reason Archie's going strong.
Well, it is the real reason why Archie is going strong, but as well as some of the new kind of storylines that you're taking Archie, and like you said, some of the offshoots of Archie. One of the things that I found really interesting is the Archie Meets. We chatted about that at your table.
Mm-hmm.
It was started with Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
So Archie meets Kiss, and it was kind of a neat mashup, and it said, hey, Archie's still, it was like, pay attention, Archie's still being made.
Yeah, I mean, there's a curiosity factor, like with Archie teaming up with people, different things. We did Archie Meets the Punisher about 20 years ago, and that always struck a chord with people. People still talk about that. And but then we did Archie Meets Kiss. That just came about. It was, Gene Simmons and John Goldwater, my boss at Archie, are friends, and then Gene Simmons just said, why don't we do an Archie team up? Because they don't like to license out Kiss, to anything, so they're very particular. But anyway, so he said, yeah, let's do it, and that was one of the easiest projects I've ever worked on. working with Gene Simmons. I mean, Gene Simmons has a reputation for being like, I guess, kind of difficult, I guess, but not on this project. He's a true comic book lover. Really respects comic books, so I think he really just let us do our thing. And the approval process was so easy. It was just couldn't have gone better. And it was a fun project. The book was very successful, and we were supposed to do an Archie versus Kiss. We postponed that for a while, we are going to do it at some point. But yeah, it was just a real fun project. It's always fun mixing Archie with any sort of genre. And then, of course, we just did the Glee crossover.
Yeah, that's out right now.
Yeah.
Archie was with Glee.
Mm-hmm. Archie versus Glee.
That'll a whole new spin-off. Let's have a bunch of verses come.
Yeah, right.
But it's fun when you have those. While we're on that subject, I know back when I was a kid, I enjoyed getting like the Marvel team-ups.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was a one shot. It didn't, you've only got so much
Yeah.
capital on you, and you could buy one book and just enjoy the heck out of it, enjoy the characters, without necessarily knowing what happened before or after.
Yeah, you don't have to buy 600 issues to follow a storyline, and even an Archie book, even if we have like a 4-part or 5-part storyline, you still can pick up one issue and it's okay. You're gonna figure out what's happening.
Yeah, you can figure out Archie without a full continuity, unlike
Right.
some of the old Marvel tomes where it's like,
Right.
why are they in space? I don't get it. So, but it is fun. The one shots though, just for those purchases, you tend to get people that will say, "Oh, I'll try."
Yeah.
And then that kind of and they go, "Wow, I like what's going on here."
Mm-hmm.
And then you probably see residual sales after those, just because you start bringing people back,
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of with Archie is such a known. It's like Mickey Mouse. I mean, it's just everybody knows who Archie is.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to sell who the character is, but you need to capture them as an audience and keep them as a reader, and they'll want to come back to try it out again.
Right. There's always that little bit of a soap opera quality with Archie, so that keeps people coming back. Yeah. So especially with the Life with Archie book, which is basically the Archie characters as adults, and that's the storyline where Archie married Betty and Veronica in two separate universes, and that's like that reads like like Dallas used to be. Every episode is and but people really follow it. People are they want to read the next issue to find out what happened.
Well, when you mentioned the title, I think everybody's head was nodding, so
Mm-hmm.
everyone is familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Now we'll go ahead and take a question. Sure.
Do you have information on their demographics?
What I know is it's always been, it's 8 to 12-year-olds are the main age, and I think it's 60% girls, 40% boys. But our demographic has been kind of messed up lately because we have a lot of older readers who read it for nostalgia purposes. We have a lot of new people who've been brought on, like older people, because of the Kevin Keller book. So we have a very diverse demographic, and we find that it's changing a lot. But the core is always the basis they always go by is the 8 to 12-year-old kids, leaning more towards girls.
So you have a target demographic, whether or not.
But like with Archie, but something like Archie with meets Kiss, the demographic is middle-aged guys. And then you get Glee. You got teenagers and young girls.
Or moms watching.
Or
anyone watching the TV show.
Right. Yeah.
Kids.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then they're coming up with this Afterlife with Archie series where the Archie characters are zombies, and that'll be definitely more male oriented. So, but the basic, like I said, but we always go back to the 8 to 12 model because that's where we sell. Like the digests are the biggest sellers in the supermarkets, and they can track those the easiest. And I think that's where they get those numbers from, because those outsell. I mean, those still sell. By newsstand, we're the number ones. We sell more books on the newsstand than anybody else, any other comic book company. I think Marvel stopped selling on the newsstand. So,
Yeah, I think back when I was younger, my parents would grab the Archie Digest because they knew that was good. It was okay because they didn't know anything about comics, and would be that or some of the Walt Disney type of things. And so I think you still have that element of I don't have to worry about pre-reading it for my kids. I know that's going to be a comic they'll enjoy.
Right.
And
the great thing about the digest is you have sort of a captive audience because you're sitting there waiting in the checkout line, and people read the Inquirer and stuff, and then you want to just show your kid, see if you don't like an Archie digest. So you're actually in that checkout line, spending time there. Just waiting to get out of the store. So it's a really good place to have books.
Oh, I can see that. It's like, here, look at this. No, don't look at that.
You're right.
Shield their eyes.
Don't look at the Inquirer and the Star. Look at this. More Kim Kardashian stuff.
Well, that's interesting is that your sales are like that when the market really is going to such a mix of digital, different types of hardbacks and trade paper. And there's just so many different types of print media and digital media right now, and not your standard, the newsstand rack.
Right. Well, and we're heavily invested in the digital stuff too. We were early on in getting all of our books on Comixology and on iTunes, and so that's been very. They've made some. I think it's starting to be lucrative at this point. I think it takes a while for it to get the ball to get rolling, but I think that's a lot of people buy both. Like when a book comes out, they don't want to go to the store and get it, so they want to just read it right away. And then if they like it, they want the paper copy too. So they get the paper copy.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I tend to buy single issues more digitally. So I have them right away, and I go to my iPad and they're right there. And then things that I enjoy, going and getting hardback books, and having something I can put up on the shelf, and something about paper. It's just that's what comics are meant to be.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
So, do we have any other questions? Yes, sir.
Do you have any way of knowing how much your demographic has jumped from the Kevin Keller storyline back to older Archie? Like, is there any way, like, you got like surveys or anything where you can say like, oh, X amount of people have jumped from like, I got into it because Kevin was in it, and it came out, and that issue came out, and like, oh, I went back and saw some stuff in the 80s and 90s.
I don't have any specific numbers. I know Archie, they do study that stuff.
Okay.
I know that, like for example, I know like when Kevin first came out and there was there were some complaints. We lost about only like 8 subscriptions out of all the subscriptions. We gained like a couple thousand, so 8. We only lost 8.
That's amazing.
Only 8 people canceled. I mean, you had other people complaining in other areas too, but as far as this, see, the people who subscribe are the hardcore fans. And really, most of the hardcore fans were really on board. It was most of the people that didn't really even read Archie anymore that complained the most. But a lot of the Kevin stuff got a lot of attention for older readers. It was a mix between gay readers or just people who were adults and read about Kevin Keller. But he definitely brought in a lot of new readers that have, for the most part, I think stayed around. And but they're always doing studies on the way who buys the books and where they sell the most, because they have to keep a close track of that. So they would have the numbers more than I would. I just know that I'm more on the creative side. So
Right. Yeah. On that, was there any unrest in Archie Comics camp when the idea came about? Was there anybody who was like, look, I don't know if I can be around for this, or was everyone in Archie Comics like, I'm down?
I mean, with the Kevin Keller story?
Yeah.
Everybody in management was. There were a few Archie writers who I won't name who quit.
Ooh, over that.
Mm.
Like 3 or 4?
Well, I can think of 2.
Wow.
And then there was a couple other ones who weren't comfortable. And there's a couple of artists who would not draw Kevin, who are now because they want to be employed, I guess. Because now Kevin's in every story, he's with the gang now. He's one of the Archie gang now, so you can't not draw Kevin, or you can't pick and choose. and then there's a couple of people on that work in the office who were not crazy about it, but but 90% of the people were fine, and if people don't want to work for Archie because of that, that's their choice.
Well, last question pertains to that. I'll let you move on.
Sure.
Do you know any stories about like something similar to that when Chuck got introduced? Like when Chuck came in, do you know if there was any unrest? People were like, I'm not going to draw black guys.
I think I had heard, because that was back in the early 70s when Chuck was introduced, and I think I heard that in the South there was a little bit of a few problems. I do know that I can say from my own experience that when I did the Archie Valerie storylines, we did the storyline Archie's dating Valerie. That was the only time somebody came into my face and was angry. And it was where was I? It was in Florida at MegaCon, and someone came up to me and just asked me what I know you've got some kind of agenda, and I was like, really? It's like my agenda is to do good stories, and he goes, I know what you're doing, and I'm not buying your comics anymore. I don't think he bought the comics anyway. I think he was one of those guys, but that was the only time somebody kind of came to my face. The only other time people will complain is of course on blogs and on Twitter, because people have this free reign to do whatever they want to do. So I've had a few threats, stupid stuff. But it's mostly good. It's like 99% good. So
I love Twitter and being able to talk to people you otherwise wouldn't. But it is, even though it's 99% good, every so often there's the 1%.
Yeah, and I know after we won the GLAAD Award 3 weeks ago, and everything was like, congratulations, and then some people were like, oh, you created a gay character, I guess you deserve an award, or sarcastically. Right. And it was like,
because they don't know, the whole history. It's not like you just came into the company, 2 months ahead and said, "This is how."
Like our only goal was to get a GLAAD Award. Yeah. We have to get a GLAAD Award. We have to create a character just to get a GLAAD Award.
That's why I went into comics.
That's our agenda, just to get a GLAAD Award. That's our agenda, right? The agenda. It's like we're receiving checks or something from Ellen. I wish.
Yeah, that's the idea. I wonder if she'll sponsor.
I know, really.
We should bet some ad on the back or something. Yes, ma'am.
I think in that same spirit, how do you introduce new characters? Is there like a process,
like how do we introduce a new character creatively within the company? Yeah. Usually just in editorial meetings. We will just talk about stuff. When Kevin came about, it was a time when our new management came in about 5 years ago. The two other CEOs passed away within 6 months of each other, and 2 new CEOs came on. And so we had a meeting about everything in general, and really about how white bread Archie had been. And we needed to diversify, because we were selling lots of books around the world and other territories. So we're selling lots of books in India, and we didn't have any Indian characters. So it was, and we just needed to just introduce new characters to see which ones clicked. So we did this storyline called New Kids, where one of the a nearby school closed down because of budget cuts, and an influx of new kids come in. So it was a way of introducing a lot of new kids at one time. Some characters clicked, some didn't. And then Kevin Keller was a big part of that too. Because even though we wanted to introduce different nationalities and things, we discussed gay characters, and we had all talked about it. Who doesn't have a gay person in their family, and we're also talking about our kids. We all had kids, well, somewhat younger than mine. Mine are in high school, some are older, but how it was such a non-issue to kids, and the timing just seemed right. It just seemed like it was good. It seemed like maybe 5 years earlier, under the old management, it would not have happened. But it was a lot of support to do it, and as far as other characters, I'm trying to think what other characters we introduced.
I guess I think about Cheryl Blossom.
I was just going to mention Cheryl Blossom. That's really interesting.
She was introduced, and I think, well, she's so much like Veronica, but she seems to click really well. So
Cheryl Blossom is very popular. She was introduced in the 80s. Dan DiCarlo created her with, I think George Glatter or Frank Doyle. I think Frank Doyle was the first story. And there was a lot of sexual overtones at the time. That's one of the reasons that they did away with the character because I mean she was like drinking beer on the beach and going topless. I mean a lot of stuff that you know she was doing all the stuff the Archie characters couldn't do, but they got a lot of complaints. So then Cheryl went away after a couple of years, and then in the early '90s when I was on board, we needed to create they wanted to create an exciting storyline that would get some attention. And we had done the whole, Betty and Veronica thing 2 million times. We were going to do a storyline where he dumps Betty and Veronica for someone new, but we were going to keep the girl a mystery. Of course, the girl was Cheryl Blossom, and then and Cheryl was, she got her own series for 5 or 6 years after that, and there was a lot of Cheryl Blossom stuff. She was really popular. Then in the early 2000s, there was the Dan DiCarlo lawsuit was going on, and since he kind of created Cheryl, it was kind of like a gray area, Cheryl went away again. So we brought Cheryl back a few years later. I was always the one that brought Cheryl back. I'll take credit for that. I didn't create Cheryl, but I always was the one to bring her back. Really, so I think she should be around now. And actually, we were talking about Cheryl recently, in that we are going to try and create a really interesting new storyline for her next year, and try and bring her back into the fold again. Because she's fun and she's evil and sexy, and you can do a lot of stuff with her that you can't do with the other characters.
The other one I wanted to ask about, which only seems graphic, is that Lincoln Boy.
Oh yeah.
Alive.
Last I checked, actually he's going to be in a storyline that I'm working on. It's going to be coming out early next year. We're doing a thing called Archie's World Tour, and it's going to be like Archie and Josie and the Pussycats. And the Wilkins had a band, so they're going to be in every in the Madhouse Glads. You probably don't even remember them, but we're going to use them. Any kind of musical band that was in the Archie character comics, we're going to use in this world tour. And but the Wilkin boy will be in it. And the story with that Wilkin boy was there used to be a comic book called Wilbur published by Archie in the 50s, and it was sort of like one of those like secondary comics that was never really hugely popular, but it had a somewhat of a run, and then it got canceled. And then in the 60s, when Archie was selling so well, anything they printed sold. So they brought that Wilbur back as that Wilkin boy. And they changed his look around, so he didn't really look the same. And then they started using Bingo is his name, the Wilkin boy, in, 10 years ago again, in the Digest stories. And then he's actually Jughead's cousin. Because in one of the Wilkin Boys comics, they made that reference. So now we use him as Jughead's cousin more. So he's there. We don't use him that much, but he will be in this upcoming story. And there's always these like weird Archie secondary characters that come back into the fold, like Cricket Odell. If you're familiar with her, she's this girl who can smell money. So like, of course, when she's around Veronica, she like almost hemorrhages because So we use her for when we need a story with someone who can smell money. So once every decade we'll
So I mean, because it's been around for so long, there's so many issues and stories and done. How do you keep track? How do you keep the reference library?
Well, fortunately, there's Archie fans that do it for us.
So you go to Wikipedia?
Well, Wikipedia, I do. I absolutely do. But there's a guy named Jack Morelli in Florida who's like a Archie historian, and you go to his house. He has like an Archie museum, and I actually went to his house a couple times, and I was worried he might have it buried in the basement. I don't know, but no, he knows everything about Archie. He's every Archie issue ever published.
Wow.
And you can ask him what something happened in an Archie book, and he may not know the actual number, but he'll tell you within 3 or 4 months when the issue came out. All the Archie merchandise, but he knows every Archie character. But then sometimes people just email us or write us about a character, and
Go look it up.
we'll look it up and think, oh, that would be kind of fun to bring them back. Yeah.
So it actually has some fan interaction with the story.
Oh yeah, we definitely listen to the fans for sure. Yeah, there's always been a strong, fan base and interaction, and fans have always sent in the fashions to Archie Comics. We've always printed the fashions, and still do it sometimes. But.
Pretty neat. Any other? Yes, sir.
How's the you said that you're starting to do online distribution. comicsology stuff
Right.
like that.
The digital stuff.
Right, the digital, exactly. That's the term.
Mhm.
How do you think that's working with your core fan base of 8 to 12-year-old kids, mostly girls? Do you think they're into that?
Mhm.
Are
Yeah.
they getting into comicsology? Are they picking up on that?
A lot of kids that age they don't even know what a book is. They're like, because in school now, like sometimes like now the textbooks are on iPads now.
Yeah.
And which is kind of alarming because we want them to know what books are too. But I'm starting to see this new digital age of kids where that's the way they're reading. So I don't know what the age breakdown is as far as the downloads go, but I think, listen, a lot of kids have iPads. It's not just.
Do they have the credit card access?
Well, I guess it's like with iTunes, you can set up an account, and as long as you have your name and your password, you can buy whatever you want. But I guess I guess you have to monitor that. There's probably a lot of books you can download that you wouldn't want your kids to read. But
I can tell you how I have 3 boys, and they use my iTunes.
Yeah.
So I'm purchasing it, so I have some parental control about what's going to be on, but you can share it across devices.
yeah.
And so you'll have a lot of kids. They'll have their own iPad, and that's what they're reading at night. Their parents may control what's going on the iPad, so the kids doesn't have a credit card, but that's what they're doing. They're reading it on devices.
I just had one follow-up to that. With Kevin Keller, I've read a lot of Betty and Veronica Double Digest because I bought them for my daughter over the years. And she loved it, so that was my connection to Archie. But what fascinated me when I got the Kevin Keller hardback, and I'm reading it, and I'm thinking, what jumps out at me is they're introducing this character, happens to be gay, but it's just an Archie story.
Yeah.
It was fascinating. It wasn't a gay story. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It was just an Archie story.
Well, that was our main intent.
Yeah.
Was not to stray from the Archie formula.
Yeah, it was perfect, and it just happened to be there, so it was fascinating.
Yeah, because we didn't want to go down this road of doing serious comics and preachy comics. So wanted to get them Archie, and then we didn't want to drop the ball either with Kevin. We didn't want to do vague things, whether you have to guess if he's gay or not. We wanted it to be open that he's gay too. So I think we put a little more work into that book than most books because we wanted to do it right. But yeah, the Archie formula works. Don't mess with it.
And you go right to the perfect solution. You use Jughead uses him to change Veronica's change.
Yeah. It was fun because it was the Veronica book that I was working on at the time. So Veronica has a crush on Kevin and can't figure out why he doesn't like her because no guy doesn't like Veronica in her eyes, and he had a very good reason why he didn't like her.
But of course, Jughead's using this to his own.
Oh, of course, because anything to get against Veronica. I mean, yeah, like he would never do anything mean to Kevin, but he would do something mean to Veronica. Sure.
Who's your favorite character?
I'd say Veronica. Yeah, I think Veronica.
Character, right? Or your favorite character story-wise?
I think it's my favorite character too. Well, I wrote into the Veronica book for so long. I did like a couple, I think 150 issues. I just got into that whole groove of writing for Veronica, and the stories were always easy because she was rich, she wasn't so nice. There's a lot of she could go around the world. There's a lot of things you could do. With Betty, it was just more limited because of her character and the limitations. But of course, Kevin is Kevin. Jughead, Kevin, and Veronica. I think maybe those are the 3 that work the best. And you always get Jughead and Veronica together. You have a story because they're just the complete opposites. So. Jughead, you just can't go wrong with Jughead. Jughead. Everybody relates to Jughead. That's why it was perfect in the book that Kevin came out to Jughead. Because he's the one you would go to because Jughead would never judge you. Jughead's always the cool. Jughead's like every demographic likes Jughead, except for Veronica, except for like the rich snobs. The rich snob demographic doesn't like him.
That's a good way to figure out people's personalities. So, what do you think of Jughead? You like Jughead?
Yeah, if you don't like Jughead, there's something wrong with it.
Sir, I think you had a question.
Yes. Well, first, it's been. I'm not sure really how other companies been doing that this deep in Archie comics. We get a lot of, I mean, you do certain stories to get attention. It's been working, you know. You get into mainstream media with Kevin, with Archie getting married, and all that. Just recently, it's announced Kevin's gonna kiss someone.
Right.
In issue 10.
Right.
And a friend of mine in Australia saw that story in her local media and sent me a message. So
yeah,
get it out.
It does, and the thing with Archie is, we're not gonna lie and say we don't like to get media coverage for stories, because we do. But it's about how you actually do the stories. Like, we knew when we introduced Kevin, it was going to get a lot of attention. He's a gay character in a kid's comic book is going to get attention. So that made us work twice as hard to do it right and not come off as a stunt. And the thing with Kevin's kiss, and I had said this at the panel last night, I'm not happy about the media like calling it like the big gay kiss, because I like to think it was just a kiss between another Archie character. And like when I first, the story is basically he just kisses his boyfriend goodbye, and then there's an overreaction to it. But you can't control the way people advertise it, and most of the headlines are like, "Get ready for Archie's big gay kiss." So it's so I can't control that, but it just makes to make the story good, and the story is just a really it's another regular Archie story. It's we poke fun at 1 Million Moms a little bit, and should get into some trouble for that. But I wasn't supposed to say that, and then I said it, and then oh well, I don't care.
But because of newspapers, I mean, they're not trying to sell Archie comics; they're trying to sell their newspapers.
Exactly.
So they're going to put the headline that's going to sell that paper for that day, whether or not it really is telling the story of what's going on.
And I wasn't sure, I knew people have been wanting Kevin to show more affection or be in a relationship. So, we knew it was coming. And then, I had drawn the issue, and I put the picture of Kevin kissing his boyfriend on my Facebook page, just to test the waters a little bit and get some, show people, and, people have reacted positively. And then I thought it kind of got a little bit of a blip and would go away. But then, I forgot who picked it up first. Oh, it was the Associated Press picked it up. And of course, everybody borrows from the Associated Press, and then it kind of went all over the place, and then it hit blogs, and then I read a couple of really conservative blogs too, and so, wow, they think that we're out to destroy every child in America. And I usually don't go all out to read the blog. I usually just read the news, the Google News. Yeah. And lately, I've started you can search the Google blogs, and that's a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a mistake.
I always tell myself, don't read the comments. If you see a news, sometimes it just draws you in, and then you're reminded, just read the news, don't read the comments.
Yeah, I got called some names I've never used on anybody before.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
It is, but it made me kind of laugh. I mean, I don't know. I don't care.
I'm an engineer by trade, so I started following Dilbert early on in his career. And actually, he was speaking at a conference years back, and he put up on the overhead letters that he would get, hate mail that he would get, and he said, it doesn't matter what you would put in there. You put something about Lithuanians, that said. Put something in there about. You couldn't avoid any demographic. Somebody out there was going to take the joke the wrong way, and so and then you got a little bit of that as well.
And then you want to dive in sometimes, but I always refrain from that. Because some people get stuff wrong. One of them was Kevin's first kiss, and then somebody's like, "Well, what's going on? Kevin got married already." And they're confusing it with the adult Kevin got married in life with Archie. There's actually we have our little separate Archie universes. And then they're like, and then when Kevin got married, people were like, Kevin's only a high school kid, and now they're marrying him off. What the hell's going on? People, and then the ball gets rolling. It's like a snowball gets bigger and bigger. And then, but I don't want to be the one to go in there and correct it. So I just let it go.
Yeah, sometimes.
Usually someone else will go in and correct it, hopefully. But
you've got a job to do.
I can't be monitoring the internet. No.
Was there another question, sir?
Yeah, everybody's been asking, do What do you think of the Betty versus Veronica dynamic that's been going on for years? My sense is that most people not familiar with Archie don't understand it, because why would anybody choose Veronica over Betty? Because she is so mean and so difficult.
I would choose Veronica over Betty. So there you go. in a heartbeat. I don't know why, but I would. No, I mean, it's more exciting. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that's that Betty versus Veronica dynamic is what keeps Archie going. It's the Archie, Betty, Veronica love triangle. That's it. I mean, we try new things. We give Archie different girlfriends, but it always goes back to that. It always goes back to people. Women identify themselves as a Betty or Veronica. I'm not saying that that's every woman, but it's I hear it all the time at the show. I'm more of a Betty. I'm more of a Veronica. Or her friend will correct her. Oh no, you're more of a Veronica. So.
And with regards to life with Archie, since sometimes he does date other girls, is there any chance we're going to see a life with Archie where he's married to Cheryl Blossom, Sabrina, or?
Well, we did in the Archie Valerie romance. We did like him marrying Valerie. Sort of, it was like a what if kind of story. Well, they're all what if stories, but and. In that, we do a quick. Valerie's imagining herself married to Archie. She does sort of like an imaginary thing, like what he would be married like to all these other girls. So we did like a quick thing of him marrying Cheryl and Sabrina, but it was like sort of like 3-4 panels a piece of what would he. I always said that Archie marrying Sabrina would be really interesting. The Archie marries Valerie was supposed to be Archie marries Cheryl at first, and then but we had just come off the Archie Cheryl Valerie romance that had done so well. And we thought we should probably just continue with Valerie. But I have the original sketches at home where it's Archie marrying Valerie on the covers, and at the last minute we made it. With Archie marrying Cheryl, we made a Valerie at the last minute. So.
We're talking about original sketches. We've been doing this for a while now. Let's go back in the time. What got you into being an artist for a career and doing comics?
Well, like most true comic book fans, I was reading comic books from like 5 years old, as early as I can remember, and I read everything. Like I started out with Harvey comics, then Archie, and then if you get a little older, you get to DC, Marvel, the whole thing. But I always read everything, and I just drew all the time. I just remember drawing on as long as I can remember back. I was trying to draw on report card covers and notebooks and anything. And then. In high school I was into art big time, and then I just, heard about the Joe Kubert School, which is like the holy grail of comic book artists. So I went there for a few years. After I went to college to be an English teacher first, but that didn't pan out so well because all I was doing was concentrating on my art classes. So I knew that I had to really do the art thing. Went to the Kubert School for 3 years, and upon graduation, Archie was looking for artists. Victor Gorelick came down with the portfolios. I was hired right before I graduated, and I started at Archie 2 weeks after graduation.
Wow.
And I've been there ever since. So there's job security for sure. And I freelanced through the years for other places, but Archie was always my main bread and butter. And it helped that when Victor came to the Joe Kubert School, I had Archie working my portfolio. So he could just come and look at how I would have drawn the Archie characters, and it was very easy to hire me because I had a bunch of Archie pages already ready for him to see. And I just, I'm not going to say it's not talent, but it's also luck and timing. There's always a lot of things that play into it.
That's life in any industry.
It is. And like when I started in the office, it was, even though I was doing freelance, one of the guys that had worked there for a long time was like, well, they made him go freelance because, long story short, there was a cat in the Archie office, and he was allergic to the cat. So instead of getting rid of the cat, they got rid of him. So, but he actually did very well. He went freelance and did well. But actually, I was allergic to cats, so I took his spot. So I worked in production at Archie for 10 years. So I was working in production at Archie and working on freelance at night. So for like 9-10 years. Then I went down to like 3 days a week working up in the Archie offices, and then after about 10 years there, I was doing so much. That was when the Cheryl Blossom thing was going full strength. I had to sleep, so I went totally freelance at that point, and that was good. Scary a little bit to go freelance at first, but.
When you mentioned the Archie office,
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of familiar with that, with the marble bullpen.
Right.
Everybody in the same area working on the product and getting it out
Mm-hmm.
monthly. Nowadays, with just the technology, the computers, and we have people that work on projects that have never physically met each other. How's that in the Archie offices?
Well, the
when
Archie
you first came in and then today.
it's about the same.
Is it?
I mean, people are working, on more digital products and stuff, but they're working up there. They still do a lot of it right in house. When I started there was 10 or 12 people right in the art department, and now there's pretty much the same number. Just more of them are working on doing like trade paperbacks, and a couple people just do digital stuff to upload to the Comixology and those sites. But unlike Marvel and DC, who really don't have much of a bullpen anymore, the Archie still has it. Archie's still old school in a lot of ways. We still hand letter our comic books, and we're nobody does that. But I love hand lettering because it's much easier to sell original artwork when there's hand lettering on it, and it just looks better. I mean, hand lettering is beautiful. I love it, and
I'm a huge fan of reading hand lettered versus a digital.
Me too. And you can tell the difference. And the guy who letters for us, Jack Morelli, does such a great job. He puts all the work into the hand-done logos and stuff. It's nice to see. Not everything has to be, digital.
Was that his decision however long ago to end every sentence with an exclamation point? Because I picked up on that when I was about 14 after I read hundreds of books and said there's no sentence, it's either ellipsis or
Yes.
exclamation.
What was Victor Gorelick has an explanation of that. They something they did way back when, and they just stuck with it. I don't know what it is either, why it is, but everything's an exclamation. And that's probably why in real life people always telling me that I do that all the time. Like when I'm on Facebook, like why is everything you say end with an exclamation point? You go, I had breakfast today and I have to put an exclamation point. And I must be writing for Archie because everything is an exclamation point.
My tweets, my Instagram, everything I still do, and I think it translates from the fact that that's how I learned how to read.
Yeah. Yep.
That is interesting. So, do you have a question? Oh, stretching. Okay, sir.
I'm just going to say about the exclamation point thing. The explanation I always heard was in the 40s or 50s, the printing was bad enough, a period could be totally lost.
Mm-hmm.
So the exclamation point isn't going to disappear because of bad printing.
I've heard that explanation before, so that could be it. That could be one of the reasons. But they're always vague. They're always vague about that. They're always vague about the S on Jughead's shirt. I don't know. Either they don't know or they're just vague about it. But I don't know. But
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that Archie's sold around the world. What countries does it really sell well in after the United States?
well, Canada, we sell more books than anywhere in the world, more than the United States.
Canada does.
Yes.
No kidding.
Yes. In Canada has 1/10 the population of the United States and sells like 3 times the books.
Wow.
So that's why when we do shows in Canada, we're like rock stars up there. We don't know, you can't figure it out. Canada has always been that way. At least since I've been at Archie for the near 30 years I've been there, it's just the way it's been. And they sell very well in India. India's like a really new big territory for us. They sell well in Mexico, Brazil. The only places where we don't sell is a lot of some European countries. There's not an Archie presence, and England doesn't know who the hell Archie is. And I was at we did a Mac Cosmetics thing this year, a promotion, and we did it in England. We opened it in England, and people were really excited about the way the cosmetics looked and the characters. They're like, "Who's this?" They did not know. The only people who knew Archie were people who had lived out of the country, or some real comic book fans knew, because in comic shops you can buy Archie comics there, but that's it. There's never been an Archie comics in the newsstand, but it was really weird. Some people who did not know who Archie was, especially older people, like people who were my age and older, who were like, I don't know who this is.
That's my. I mean, I compared him to Mickey Mouse earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
It's to me, it's the same thing. It's going over to Europe and trying to explain who Mickey Mouse is and them not knowing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so big. You just assume everybody
But
knows.
we've never had a presence there.
Do you have to
That's
localize
interesting.
it all for the comic books, or did you just do a straight translation?
Oh.
Or are they all in English?
Well, they translate the comics they in French and Spanish. Like in Canada, we sell English and French editions of all the books.
Do you have to change the language at all, or is it just when you sell an English book up there, is it just the same? book?
Someone translates it, so they could be translating it any way they want. I guess we wouldn't know.
No, what I mean is like even for English, is it all the same thing? I mean, they don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to change anything for a difference in English. Because I mean, there's a lot of English speakers in India, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. No, we don't worry about that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there any other questions? Okay. Check my. Do you have my watch? I am so talk digital. I'm so used to pull my phone out and see how we're doing. Okay, it's 5:18. As far as the spin-offs, we were talking on a couple of them. Is there any that you would like to do that that you can talk about, that you could explain, something that hasn't been published yet, or can you
Anything?
not mention things that are in work?
There's something you know about that I don't know.
Well, I was thinking more
Did I
like
tell you something
when
that
you
I
were
forgot
talking about
about?
verses, or some of the matchups. If there were some other ones you guys are pitching to do, just like that, Archie meets Kiss and Archie meets Glee.
Well, there's not any real any more like TV or pop culture crossovers right now, but they are talking to some. They are looking at some things, but right now the things. Glee was a big deal to come off of because that was such an intense project. I mean, even though the books are just coming out now, I mean, I barely finished the artwork too. That's how down to the wire we were on that. No, as far as working on comics, spin-offs that I would like to work on, I've always wanted to do a Sabrina comic book, and I don't know why. I mean, or Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
Those are always two books that I've always wanted to do, and they're usually popular characters, but they don't sell well on their own.
I could see the Josie meetup fitting right in and doing very well.
And when we do these when we do the Archie Valerie team ups, we usually call them Archie and Josie and the Pussycats team ups. That's how we usually label it.
Yeah.
And those do very well. So to team up Archie with Josie, it sells very well. But to sell Josie in her own book, it's just one of those things that doesn't sell that well. Well, it's the same thing with Jughead. Jughead is enormously popular and has always been the worst selling Archie comic book.
Really?
Always. And it's always been nearly canceled many times. And people are always Jughead's like the favorite character, but it cannot sell. So I will never figure that out.
He's too much on his own.
We cannot figure it out. And I even asked if that was the way it was in the old days too, and not quite as much, but it was always he never sold like the other characters did. And Sabrina sold when she was on TV, and I think Josie too, but they're enormously popular properties because there's a Sabrina show that's coming on this fall, an animated series. They're working on a Josie animated series, so the characters always are popular.
Yeah.
And I see that it shows here. I see everybody wants
You
Josie
spend a lot
sketches
more,
and stuff,
yeah.
but it's interesting what sells and what
actually
doesn't.
sells at the
Yeah.
register versus what people
I mean, for years,
enjoy.
Betty and Veronica was the top-selling comic at household Archie. Now Archie is the top seller again. But I think for 20 years, 15 years, Betty and Veronica was the top comic.
Yeah, it's interesting that it would hold it for that long. I mean, I can kind of see, depending on storylines and arcs, the one being more than the other.
But it's rare that the main character of a company isn't have the top-selling comic book. It's rare.
Yeah.
But a lot of that had to do with Betty and Veronica, the sex appeal, and Dan DeCarlo's art. That I'm sure put it over the edge for me. So.
Well, I think that's the amount of time that we have. And Dan, thank you very much for coming out here. Come to the
Thanks.
con.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And
thank you all for coming to Denver Comic Con as well, and for coming and attending the panels.
Yes.
It's,
Yeah, thanks for your support.
a great audience.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Great.